Good. All right. Well, good afternoon. So there's a lot of cases, we want to make it look like TV where it happens within an hour. But this is definitely not one of those cases. And to the over 60 victims that we know of out there, I can imagine how frustrating it is that you had to deal with Scott Sands. You had a boat that you wanted to get repaired real quickly, and unfortunately did not end up that way. But, because of the hard work of these detectives, everybody involved in this case, you're going to get at least resolution of the fact that the person that was ripping you off will see his day in court. It's interesting. There's actually a Facebook page for these victims. It's called I have to read this. Scott Sands Boat and Repair and Boat Sales in Hudson, Florida is fraudulent. That is a Facebook page that was created by all these victims out there. And we know there's more victims, so I'll tell you, before I even get started, there's a call to action out there. If you are a victim, you have not reported yet, please reach out to the Pasco Sheriff's Office. We have Detective Rosenkowski. He's leading the charge on this. Actually, a neighbor put, Detective Rosenkowski's email address up outside of Scott Sands' location because we're trying to get information what happened here. So, what was going on for several years now. Scott Sands, he's the owner of Liberty Entrepreneurs Incorporated. And so people would go in wanting to get their boats repaired. It was almost like a mechanic shop but for boaters. They would bring their boats in. They would think he was going to repair it quickly. But what he would end up doing is taking parts from one boat and putting it on another boat. He would actually end up going to automobile places and, either an auto shop or to auto vehicles and put those parts onto the boat. So I'll tell you, from a boating perspective, that is extremely dangerous to put car vehicle parts onto a boat. This is some of the crimes that were occurring out there, and it would just be on and on. He would constantly, it was a Ponzi scheme. Everybody talks about money Ponzi schemes. This is a boat repair shop Ponzi scheme that was going on, where they were constantly taking one part to another part. And even something as, somebody had just bought 2 brand new engines, asked him to put it on their boat, and he still would take parts off of that. He would resell pieces online. He was constantly moving things all around. So where I give our detectives a lot of credit was that when this was first going on, the fact that they weren't able to, put some small pieces together, there was a small amount of victims they were able to identify, but the employees came out and said, no, this is what he's doing. Not only is he harming these people who have these boats, but he's also harming us as employees. So this is the issue that we're dealing with right now. That's the issue. This case is building and building. I understand at the end of last week there was want to get some information out there, but for us, for our detectives, this case is still ongoing. Right now Scott Sands is being charged with scheme to defraud, failure to secure workers' compensation and insurance coverage, grand theft, dealing in stolen property, 3 counts of felon in possession of a firearms, own, operate, and conduct a chop shop, and that's something we're still looking at right now because, we're learning, and everybody would think that in state statute to be a chop shop would be considered the same as having a motor vehicle, but we're finding out that may be different for marine, for boats. So that's something we may have to look at legislatively in the future. But it's interesting, this individual ran a vehicle chop shop before in Pinellas. He served time for it. He was convicted for it and served time. He ended up doing this with boats. And so, for the victims out there, we're asking if there's any information, please come forward. I can imagine how frustrating it is. That we had victims from across the country reaching out to us, saying, hey, what's going on? We want to know because they're finding out they were now victims too. So any more information we can get out there to people, please let us know. This is horrific for those people that, want to enjoy their boat. It's a big investment for those people. But at the same time is because the victims came forward, because the victims are working with us, because the employees came forward, provided information, and with the hard work of these detectives, we're able to find resolution to this case because this is an individual that, had done this in the past, had done another scheme to defraud now, and in the future, I would just put that warning out there. If you have a boat, if you have a vehicle and you're going to take it in for repairs, please check with the people that do the work first. Look it up online, do a Google search, do something, because this person's information was out there, and nobody should be a victim, but what we're trying to do is just warn people in the future. Please, take precautions when one of your most valuable assets, you have to bring it in to make sure you get it back and it's properly fixed. So with that, I've got our detectives here to answer some questions if anybody has anything.
What do you say for himself?
I'll let the Rosenkowski answer that one. They were out there in the heat.
Detective Sean Rosenkowski, first name S-H-A-W-N, last name is R-O-Z-A-N-K-O-W-S-K-I. So when I interviewed Scott Sands, and before I get into that, I actually want to say one thing because it's important to have a little bit of a PSA out there. So for all the victims that had their boat towed that day, we are working on identifying the boat motors within those boats right now to see if they're stolen from another boat or another location. So right now they are being held as evidence. So just please be patient with us. Once that's all cleared up and we identify that's not a stolen boat motor within your boat, we can release it to you. So we're working on that. We're going to get that done as quickly as possible. But just keep in mind that we have 75 boats that we have to go through, so it's going to take us a little bit of time. So as for the interview with Scott Sands kind of skated around answering any of the questions. When I asked him about certain customers, he would basically just say that it's all a civil matter. You know, they paid me for a service. I'm still trying to provide it to them, and because of COVID-19, I haven't been able to. However, when you talk to all of these victims all have different, excuses that were provided to them. None of them were COVID-19. They were, I had a family member pass away. Oh, I had to take my daughter to a doctor's appointment. I had to do this, I had to do that. None of them were in reference to COVID, but for whatever reason during my interview, he said that was due to COVID-19.
He says he's being victimized by his neighbor next door, and she is putting all these 56 people up to putting the criminal allegations against them.
Yeah, the neighbor down the street has put up a sign out front with my information on it, my telephone number, my name, my email address. Any victims of him, please reach out to this detective. There's a couple Facebook groups that are out there talking about him as well. So there are a couple different people that are pushing.
But he's saying he's being victimized by his neighbor. He says she's the culprit of all these criminal allegations.
Okay. I'll answer that very quickly. Detective Rosenkowski, the team did a phenomenal job. I'll say this: had their work not produced the information and corroborated all the information that was provided to them, then we probably would be saying, yep, there's a possibility of that happening. But everything lines up to what people are saying. All the information's lining up. It's very easy for somebody to say, oh, they're making this up about me. But everything is lining up. You can't have over 60 victims already coming out there saying, this happened, this happened, this happened, and we're going in there and seeing, yep, this is all lining up. It's a defense that he may want to use, but at the same time we could not have rushed on late last week to come out and do this press conference because they were still going through, getting information, making sure everything lined up. And there's nothing that they have done from their investigative standpoint to today that would prove that Scott Sands is saying that his neighbor's trying to harm him or cause this upon him. Everything lines up to the fact that Scott Sands, was causing harm to these individuals that left their boats there. He was not being reputable in his business operations. And so, as I say, I just wanted to step in because, they did a phenomenal job. Their hard work, if there was something that was there that they didn't do, and that proved that Scott Sands is correct, that this is all false allegations, then, we would be saying that. But everything has lined up that, he was not doing a good job for these people at the boat. So that's why I want to come forward, and I'll be the one that says that no, he's wrong. And if he has proof otherwise, please provide it to us.
How many boats did you seize over last week?
About 75.
Yeah.
There you go.
So wait, Sheriff, just to continue what you're saying, I'm not clear about boats, so pardon my ignorance, but what's the difference between just a bad mechanic who's kind of shady or not really great at it, and a guy who's actually committing fraud.
Right.
And what specifically in this case makes you say, no, this isn't just an incompetent guy, this is a criminal?
Right, I'll let Detective Rosankowski goes deeper in that, but I'll tell you, when you start reading the PC affidavits and everything, the fact that if I go in for a boat repair and somebody puts, GM product for vehicles into my boat for repairs, knowingly does that, that causes harm. And let me go a little further into that, because I wasn't even up to speed on this until it was brought to my attention. But if you put car parts into a boat motor, they are totally used for separate things. If that boat motor, they go out in the Gulf of Mexico, they're running full speed, a car part is not used for that. And we found through our investigation that those car parts could start boat fires. So not only for the fact that, is he fraudulently putting the wrong material, the wrong parts into a boat engine that should be in a car, but now he could be endangering the lives of those individuals and their families being on the water, going full speed, thinking that their boat is safe, but could cause a boat fire, could cause death or bodily injury because of his, basically criminal acts. But I'll let Detective Rosankowski get further into that.
Yeah, and basically, as the sheriff was saying, as part of his scheme to defraud, what he normally would do is go ahead and bring the customers in. He would tell them, oh, it's going to be done in about 3 weeks, give them a really short time frame. Months and months and months later, they start to ask questions. Where's my boat? What's happening to my boat? Once that starts to happen, according to, people that we have spoken to, witnesses that actually used to work with Scott Sands at his place, would even tell us that if he gets angry with a customer, he instructs them, or he does it himself. He will remove the engines, all of like the valuable equipment, such as like a GPS unit, or let's say a radio, or any other type of electronic item out of that boat. He will then sell it online via Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. And then after that, he would sell anything that he could out of that customer's boat just because they gave him a hard time. He would then say that, well, they didn't come and pick up their boat when they should have, so let's impound it. So then he impounds it, moves it to another lot that he uses, starts to charge storage fees to that customer, and then after a while, after the storage fees get so high, that customer can no longer afford to get that boat back. So then he places a lien, then he takes it down to Pinellas County dump and he dumps it. That's part of his scheme. On several occasions, he would have a customer come in with new boat motors just to be installed. He would then sell them to other customers. He would take boat motors apart from other people's boats and sandblast them and then spray paint them black to make them look new, because there's another customer that bought a new motor, but he's now replacing their old motor with another old motor from someone else's boat that was just spray painted black to make it look brand new. So that was part of his scheme. Go ahead.
Are you looking at maybe some of these witnesses or employees being a part of this and being charged?
None of them stay around for very long. So once they actually figure out what's going on, they leave the company because they don't want to be a part of it, and they came forward. So I don't think that there's going to be any charges against the former employees whatsoever. I think they did a great job coming forward and telling us what was going on there.
Will the victims ever really be able to, get full restitution? It sounds like they're kind of SOL.
At this point, we don't know. So we do have some subpoenas out for his bank records. Once we get those back, we'll be able to determine what type of information, what type of money he might have to pay restitution back. But at this point, I would assume that a lot of these victims will never see their money back.
And I guess there's no excuse at all for a firearm and ammo and shotgun.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you were asking about how many we have seized. So I'll just do a quick rundown of what we took while we were out there. There was 23 motor vehicles, 75 boats. We recovered one stolen motorcycle out of Polk County. There was one trailer with an altered VIN number, And there was a boat with the altered hull number, and then the 3 firearms, one of which was a tactical shotgun, and then 2 handguns.
That must have been an all-day event for you, seizing all that equipment.
2 very long days.
Any additional questions?
Sure, I got a question on another case real quick.
Yep.
The person in Tampa who received the young lady from last week, the 11-year-old. I read in a court affidavit that he was out on other charges, but apparently not in Hillsborough County. Were they charges in your county, Mr. Encarnacion?
I don't know. Yeah, it's the first I'm hearing about that, so yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yep,
Sure.
we'll find out.
Can you comment on the, I believe it was the Times article that's saying that there's now a federal investigation as to whether or not the school district illegally provided information about students?
Yeah, I don't know about the investigation. I know they sent a letter. That letter has been out for a long time. And so, you know, we're very proud of the partnership with the school district, protecting kids. And, you know, I think unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there. When people actually take the time to sit with the school district or talk to the sheriff's office, find out what's going on, they actually appreciate the fact that we are protecting kids and helping kids. But unfortunately, controversy sells. So they don't want to know the facts. But the facts actually are, we're helping people. All right?
Do you have private information about students? I think that's the concern, that there's a...
We don't have grades. I mean, I know that's a big...
Not grades, but-
Oh, I mean, we have the same information that, you know, the school resource officer has the information that is the same as the teachers in the school, everybody else. Where the whole controversy, where people are trying to create controversy, is that they think patrol deputies, detectives have the children's information. That's not true. And that's unfortunately where the lies are coming in.
And I think the newspaper article was saying that the education department was investigating the school district.
Right.
They were not looking at you, they were investigating the school
They're
district.
looking at the school district to see where that information is going, but I go back to it. We are probably the most transparent agencies in the area. We're so proud of this program because we are protecting kids. We're helping kids with mental health substance issue. We want this program out there. We want to talk about, because when Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened, everybody says we need to share information, we need to work together. We have one of the tightest bonds with our school district because we're helping kids. And it's farthest from the truth. We don't care if a kid has straight A's or straight F's. We don't worry about grades when it comes to criminal aspects on the street because we do not investigate cases based off of grades. We look at things because of historic information, such as criminal records. That's what I'm talking about, historical criminal records, or the fact that, you know, these kids are breaking into 20 cars. That's what we're looking at. The schools are looking at things, and we're actually the ones that provide the school the information. So if a young girl is cutting her wrist on a Saturday afternoon, the schools wouldn't know that. But we do, because we're responding with fire rescue because she's trying to commit suicide. We give that information then to the school district and say, this young girl is going through a mental health crisis. You probably need to have a counselor work with her. That counselor then goes out and works with that young girl. That's where we're sharing information. That's where we're working together. And unfortunately, misinformation's out there, but when the truth is out there, when people take the time to sit with us and we explain the program, it actually shows it's a great program protecting our children and protecting our community. All right?
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
If any of you want additional information about any of the other cases that you have spoken about, you all have my email and my phone number, so you can please give me a call.